Alaikum. Congratulations on making it to the midpoint. The championship horses, as I told you before, they run the second half of the race faster than the first half. So now is the time not to slow down. Now is the time to increase. So everyone take a deep breath. Whatever you think you were doing, you need to do more of, all of us together, inshallah. And hopefully we get what we need from Laylatul Qadr and we have a successful second half of Ramadan. And also we're in the middle of the Quran. So now we are in the middle part of the Quran where we are crossing over now into the last half of the Mus'haf. So today the two parts. So the first part, one of the sciences and disciplines of the Quran is knowing how the Quran was compiled. There were 3 stages of the compilation of the Quran. The first stage happened during the time of the life of the Prophet ﷺ. As he received revelation over 23 years, of course the minute he would receive revelation, he would tell the community, and then the companions would memorize it, and then some of the companions would write it down. As a matter of fact, some of the companions were ordered to write the Quran down. So by the time the Prophet ﷺ passed, there were different manuscripts, like different skins and bones, different parchments that have parts of the Quran written on it. I'm sure you all remember the story of Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anhu, how he became Muslim, that he went to his sister and they were reading from a parchment of Surah Taha. So the Quran was written down at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, but it was not all together in one volume. That's the first stage. Then during the Khilafah of Sayyidina Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, during the Ridda wars, many of the people who had memorized the Quran had lost their lives. So Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anhu was concerned. He was concerned that this was like a national security issue. That's like the level that he was thinking. So he went to Sayyidina Abu Bakr, the Khalifa, and he told him, I think we need to compile the Quran in one Mus'haf. And then Sayyidina Abu Bakr said, how can we do something that the Prophet ﷺ didn't do? And he said, no, wallahi, this is a good thing. So Abu Bakr said, when I saw that Umar was adamant, I knew that Allah had guided him to the truth. So we brought Zayd. Zayd was a young companion, and he was, perfect record, good memory, upstanding person. So they told him what they wanted him to do. They wanted him to lead this committee. And Zayd said, if you asked me to move the mountain from here to here, it would have been easier than to do something like this. So he took on the task and he established certain parameters for accepting the Quran. The first parameter is that somebody has to come and verify that this set, like let's say we're doing a page at a time. This took for a year, by the way. Let's say a page at a time. Someone will recite from memory the order of the verses. That's the first step. The second step is we need 2 independent written sources that document that this is the order of the verses in sequence, and they come before the page before it, and they come after the page before it, and they come before the page after it. Yes. So 2 written documentations. And they collected the Quran in that way. However, the Mus'haf of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, there is something that was different in it. There is a hadith in which the Prophet ﷺ said the Quran was revealed in 7 dialects. Sab'atu ahruf. 7 dialects. These correspond to the dialects of the Arab tribes. At the time, one of those dialects was the dialects of Quraysh. The written Mus'haf of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu did not take into consideration standardizing the script. This is different than the qira'at, than the recitations. The dialects have to do with the pronunciation of the words. Tonight, Anas recited the story of the people of the cave, and he said, Tazzawaru. Tazzawaru, with a shadda on the zay. We read, or I read it, وَتَزَاوَرُوا, without the shadda on the zay. Now from the written script, is there a difference? It's written the same way. Forget about the vowels and the dots, that comes later. From the written script, it's the same. But there are instances in which the written script, it will be different. So the Mus'haf of Abu Bakr did not take into consideration this. And the second thing is it did not take into consideration those points of commentary that some of the Sahaba added while they wrote down the Quran. And then it passed to Umar, and then we came to the Khilafah of Sayyidina Uthman, and then during the opening of Azerbaijan and Armenia, that part of the world, a lot of non-Arabs started coming into Islam, and things got even more heated about the differences of how to recite. So Sayyidina Uthman, the Khalifa now, he did the same thing. He brought Zayd, he put together a committee, same conditions. He said, however, if there is a issue of the ahruf, of the dialects, write the script in the script of Quraysh, because the Quran was revealed to the Prophet ﷺ in the script of the Quraysh. So the ahruf, the 7 dialects, largely get standardized through the script of Uthman. We talked about that last night. And the differences between words in the dialects live on through the qira'at. So for example, إن جاءكم فاسق بنبأ فتبينوا. In one of the recitations is تثبتوا. تبينوا. If you took away all the dots, you could read it تبينوا or تثبتوا. So the dots came later. Abu Aswad al-Du'ali radiallahu anhu, one of the companions of Imam Ali alayhi salam, he is the first attributed to writing the dots in the Quran and the voweling marks. So this is the stage of the compiling of the Quran, and this is of course of the utmost concern for us, because this demonstrates the precision by which the Quran was gathered, standardized. The script was standardized, and we talked about the recitations yesterday. And every mushaf, the ulama agree that any mushaf to be properly written has to be written according to the Uthmanic script. And now you know a little bit about how we got to the Uthmanic script. Does that make sense? Okay, this, I know it's not the most exciting, but you know, I'm giving you hopefully something. Maybe when I die you'll remember, and I'll get a reward for it, inshallah. Before I say the following story, I want you to understand that this is only a story. So I don't want anyone to get upset. This is just a story that we say. And the next thing I want to say is that drugs are haram, and dealing drugs and taking drugs are haram. And you'll see why I have to give this disclaimer in the story. So here's the story. This is a story about not judging people. There was a famous sheikh who was considered to be a wali, a saintly person. He was named Sheikh al-Farghali. Sheikh al-Farghal, or sometimes he's known as Sultan al-Farghal. And he was one of these people that was considered majdoob. So he was not, if you saw him, he looks a little odd. He has idiosyncrasies, a little flamboyant figure. And one time, Shaykh al-Islam ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, Shaykh al-Islam ibn Hajar al-Asqalani is one of the most celebrated ulama of Islam. He is a hafiz of hadith. He wrote a commentary on Sahih al-Bukhari, Fath al-Bari. He was Qadi al-Quda. There isn't anything that he didn't write about. So he was entering into the Azhar mosque to lead the Maghrib prayer, and then Shaykh al-Farghal is at the entrance of Al-Azhar mosque selling hashish. So, and Shaykh al-Farghal has this, reputation. So it's just a story, relax. Shaykh al-Farghal has this reputation that he's a wali. So Ibn Hajar said to himself in his heart, he said, if this guy was a wali, Allah wouldn't put him in this place that he's selling hashish. So Ibn Hajar walked into the mosque, Allahu Akbar, he forgot Surah Al-Fatiha. Huge embarrassment. It's Qadi al-Quda, Shaykh al-Islam, he forgot Surah Al-Fatiha. He finished the prayer, so everyone's like, Maulana, what's wrong? What happened? He's like, I don't know. Like, you must have done something. No, everything is fine. But that guy, the guy that's selling hashish, what's going on? How can he sell hashish? They're like, that's Shaykh Farghal. La, you can't say that about him. You have to go and apologize. So Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Hajar went to Shaykh al-Farghal, and he looked at him, and Shaykh al-Farghal said, Al-Fatiha. And Shaykh Ibn Hajar said, what happened? What happened? And the Shaykh said, I didn't do anything. I didn't take anything from you. I didn't steal anything from you. But you, who told you, Shaykh al-Islam, that you can judge people? Who told you, Shaykh al-Islam, that you're better than everybody else? And then Shaykh al-Islam said, Ya Mawlana, but you're selling drugs in front of the mosque. And this is haram on top of haram. In the prayer time, Shaykh Farghal said, sit down next to me and watch what happens. So Shaykh al-Islam said, this is a story. Shaykh al-Islam sat down with him to observe what happened. So he's selling the hashish. So Shaykh al-Islam decided, I'm going to follow one of the people that buy from Shaykh al-Farghal. So he followed him, and I've never taken hashish, so I don't know if you roll it or you smoke it or what you snort it, but whatever, he imbibed the hashish, and the minute he imbibed the hashish, he started to throw up profusely. So Shaykh Ibn Hajar went back to Shaykh al-Farghal and he told him what happened. And Shaykh al-Farghal told him, I have been selling hashish, alhamdulillah, for 20 years and I have no repeat customers. Meaning that Allah Ta'ala in some way inspired him that if he sells the hashish, the person's gonna get sick and is not gonna come back. So Ibn Hajar apologized to him. This is the story. Now it's just a story. It's just a story. And it's weak, I understand, and there's some narrative. It's very off-putting and very odd to say in the mosque. But where else are you going to say a story like this? It has to be in the mosque, right? It gives it the flavor. The point of the story is not to judge people. Now you can judge the act. Selling drugs is haram, taking drugs is haram, selling drugs in the door of the mosque is haram, not praying with the jama'ah when it's going on to sell drugs is haram. I mean, there's no disputing that. But the point of the story is that Ibn Hajar felt that if this is really a man of God, Allah wouldn't put him in this place. But who are you to say where Allah Ta'ala places His chosen? That's the point of the story. We don't know who amongst us is the friend of God. We don't know who amongst us is the saintly person. Not just Muslims, people out there, we have no idea the people that we encounter, who they are, what they are. And this type of story, there are many of these type of stories throughout Islamic history. To emphasize this one point, and this is the point of the story, is never judge anyone. In English we say hate the sin, but not the sinner, which is like a Christian saying. It's the same thing for us. You can criticize the act, you can, amr bil ma'ruf wa nahy al munkar, of course we have to, but don't let that jump to the conclusion that you are better than, that you are superior to, that the other person is less than. That's very dangerous, because everyone has a secret with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'll conclude with a mini version of this that happened to me. So because I've experienced it, it means a lot to me. Many years ago, one of my students called me and he said, I have a relative and she says that she can't fast. I said, okay, why can't she fast? Is she sick? He said, no, she's not sick, but she smokes. She's a chain smoker and it's very hard for her to fast. And in my heart, I was like, what kind of BS is that? I said that, wallah, I said that to myself. The minute, and it was the first day of Ramadan, the minute I said that, I was in the car with my family, I got very nauseous, I turned pale, I had to park to the side of the road, I couldn't continue. I was like, are you okay? It's like, I don't know. I started sweating profusely, and then I remembered the story of Shaykh Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani. I said, Ya Allah, I make tawbah. Because my student tells me that his mom is a saintly person and she prays tahajjud and she does all of these awrad and reads all this Quran, and now he's telling me that she can't fast. I said, astaghfirullah, tubtu ilayk ya Rabb. And the minute I made the tawbah, by the time my wife drove home, alhamdulillah, whatever was going on went away. And I remember that story. Never judge anybody, because you do not know anyone's secret with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I hope the story is understood for the reason behind it. So forget the drug part and think about the not judging people. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina wa Mawlana Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam.